Okay, so getting back into our coverage over Heroes Reborn, we're going to jump back in with more Fantastic Four and cover the storyline where you have the Avengers teaming up with the Fantastic Four to fight against Namor. Now remember, when it came to our last video for Heroes Reborn, the Fantastic Four being written by Jim Lee, it was a whole idea of our heroes just recently got done fighting against the Mole Man. But right after dealing with the Mole Man, you had S.H.I.E.L.D. inform our heroes about the idea of Namor attacking Manhattan. And so for our heroes, they had no choice. They had to step up and basically go deal with Namor, who's currently attacking Manhattan. Now, the reason why you have Namor attacking Manhattan is all because of the idea that, well, you had all this pollution just getting into the water. And so for Namor, he was kind of like, listen, you know what? I am tired of the surface people just killing off the ocean, killing off my people, killing off sea creatures left and right. And so, of course, we had to see Namor get very upset and wanting to invade the surface world and bring it down. Now, before we officially dive into the storyline, I kind of want to explain what Heroes Reborn is for people who are just getting into comics. You see, when it comes to Heroes Reborn in the late 1990s, you see, for Marvel Comics in the late 1990s, they want to do a quick shakeup. And the reason why, because in the late 1990s, some of their books were no longer selling. Like, yes, you had Spider-Man and you had the X-Men. And those books right there were selling. But when it came to Iron Man, Fantastic Four, the Avengers, or even Captain America, those books right there were no longer selling. Now, technically, when it came to Steve Rogers, he was selling, he was getting better, but a deal was already done. And so you had Marvel basically cancel all of those books and use an event called Avengers X-Men Onslaught. With that event right there, you had our heroes fight against a creature known as Onslaught. But you had the Avengers and Fantastic Four run into the creature. When they did, they had disappeared. And of course, they all went into a brand new world, better known as Heroes Reborn. Now, with this new world, it gave Marvel the ability to have a fresh start with these characters, a whole new beginning for the Avengers and the Fantastic Four. And matter of fact, we already covered a few storylines for these characters so far. And that is why, as you dive into the third issue of this series, you're now seeing the Avengers being called in to basically help out with this Namor situation. Because by this point, you have the Avengers, you have Fantastic Four, you even have Captain America. Now, Iron Man is technically still sitting on the sideline, but we'll sooner or later see him be brought into the bigger picture. And when he's brought in, it kind of helps connect all the different books together. But either way, it was Nick Fury saying, well, okay, listen, even though I just sent another team, the Fantastic Four, to handle this situation, they still need some backup. They still need some help with Namor and an army of his people. So, of course, you had Nick bring in the Avengers. But I love the idea of the entire story being told to us in just one single issue. Like, you do have the Avengers arrive, right? You have Thor going in first because you had Namor in the last video release Giganto into the Manhattan city. And so, of course, this huge giant sea creatures right now just attacking the city. And Thor is somewhat struggling against this creature. But it's kind of cool to see, like, even though you have two powerful teams there, Namor's army can actually, stand against both groups at the same time. Now, for Namor, he is then confronted by Susan Storm. And as we all know, in the old original Marvel universe, these two characters always have that, like, will they, won't they bond. I know for hardcore Fantastic Four fans, they already know, like, no, she will never leave Reed for Namor. But for me, like, someone who comes in occasionally to read Fantastic Four comics, it was always like it could happen. Like, you never know. There's that one day she might actually leave Reed for Namor. Now, as we all know, she won't, but like, it's just there in the air. And so when she does meet Namor, we're kind of re-establishing the whole idea, the possibility of her getting with Namor in his whole brand new reality. But you do have the rest of Fantastic Four arrive as well. You also have, like, the Avengers moving in to fight against Namor. Now, This is kind of cool because even though it's a brand new universe, it does bring some old ideas into this brand new reality. The whole idea of Namor and Captain America. Because back in the old Marvel universe, when it came to Namor and Steve Rogers, they fought together in World War II. And so in this brand new reality, we're using the same idea all over again in this new reality. Like, hey, you know what? Namor and Steve Rogers, they fought together back in World War II. Now, here's the thing, because for Namor, he also knows about Thor as well, the god of thunder. But while you have Steve and Namor talking to one another, you have some people of Namor's army seeing what exactly is happening. And the main person would be Krang. You see, for Krang, what he was trying to do is set up Namor as a way to get rid of Namor and basically take up the throne, which means the humans were not really trying to pollute the oceans as a way to attack Namor and kill off Atlantis. It was Krang right there trying to paint this picture to shake things up, to hopefully get rid of Namor and take his throne. And so now seeing Namor being able to communicate with Steve in a peaceful way, he's kind of like, okay, cool, you know what? We got to go to plan B. Now, earlier on, we saw Namor basically defeat Ben Grimm. So with Ben Grimm being defeated, of course, being knocked out, it allowed Ben Grimm to have a dream. And of course, giving Gus a flashback. Now, this flashback is technically really important because it's basically establishing like Ben Grimm had a crush on Susan Storm. It's very similar to what we saw in the Ultimate Marvel universe, but this came out prior from that universe right there. So it's kind of like, did the Ultimate Marvel universe kind of borrow that idea from this storyline right here? But either way, when it came to Ben Grimm, before he had officially joined Reed Richards' project to be a pilot for that spacecraft, you had Susan try her best to get him to come, where of course he did agree, but only because of his crush on Susan. Not because of the friendship he had with Reed Richards. And apparently him and Reed were kind of on bad terms at the moment there. But it was Susan who was able to bring Ben into the actual project. And it's kind of like Jim Lee just teasing the idea, because once you do have Ben Grimm wake up, he's then confronted by Alicia Masters. So of course, as we all know, in the old reality, her and Ben got together. So it's kind of like Jim saying, there is a possibility that he could get with Susan, but at the same time, here is Alicia. She's still blind, but at the same time, it's her right now being able to build that connection with Ben Grimm right off the bat. Just being there for him, making sure that he is okay. And even though he did transform into a monster, and he tells her like, hey, listen, I'm a crazy monster dude at the moment, she does not care. She wants to make sure he's okay, but she can also tell he has a good soul on him. But as we do switch back over to Namor, it's Namor being able to communicate with Thor and also Steve Rogers, because these two characters, they know Namor. They're trying to be like, hey man, listen, what you're doing right now is completely wrong. Now you have Reed just come in there and basically ruin everything. And the reason why, because earlier he saw Susan be touched by Namor. So of course, for Reed, he's kind of like, hey, you can't touch her. You can't be near her. But of course, he was. Now here's Reed again getting very upset with Namor. Now you do have the Avengers try to stop Reed from making things worse, but you didn't have Namor begin to get a tad bit ill, like he's getting sick somehow. And we come to find out Krang had poisoned Namor, and you didn't have Krang begin to attack Namor. And so that is when you have our heroes realize, oh, we have been played. Like the whole entire group right now been played by Krang, because Krang wants the throne of Namor. But the problem is right now, Namor is getting worse. Whatever kind of sickness he has, it's getting worse and worse. So of course for Namor, he's no longer able to stop his army. Right now, his army believes that basically Namor had betrayed them. So now the Avengers are trying their best to fight against the army from Atlantis, but at the same time, you have Reed trying his best to save the life of Namor. Now, when it comes to Ben Grimm, he does have a game plan here as a way to stop Giganto, the huge sea creature that Namor had released in our last video, by basically using the quantum drive. Now, the quantum drive, unstable, has the ability to blow like a nuclear bomb. And so, of course, it's Ben Grimm saying, if I am able to take the quantum drive inside the monster and allow it to blow up, that creature will die, and basically it'll make things easier for our heroes. And so, of course, you do have Ben Grimm take the aircraft away from Nick Fury and fly towards the sea creature. But while you have that going on, you had Reed and Sue being able to get Namor over to a nearby hospital. So right now, it's Reed being able to help out Namor. Now, when he wakes up, he believes it's Reed right now trying to attack him again. But you have Susan there being like, hey, listen, this is Reed, and Reed's right now trying to help you out. So just relax and breathe, and everything's going to be okay. But then you have Susan realize what Ben is actually up to. You see, for Ben, he was about to sacrifice his own life by flying the actual aircraft into the mouth of the creature and allowed the quantum drive to basically blow up and, well, kill the creature, but most likely kill him as well. But at the very last second, you have the Human Torch being able to grab Ben and save his life. And then you have Namor say, hey guys, listen, my people, stop what you're doing right now. We all have been played by Krang. We don't have an actual reason to attack the surface dwellers, almost as sea dwellers, the surface dwellers. So you know what? Let's all chill out and let's begin the process of heading back home. And so this kind of leads into like Jim Lee wrapping up his first story arc, because technically this storyline, this issue right here was picking up the last video left off at, which was the first two issues of this series. But we had to cover Avengers #1 before we covered this one right here. But either way, you do have the heroes kind of agreeing like, hey, we're all on the same side, we're all heroes, and possibly down the road, we're going to have to work together again when it comes to fighting against future threats. And so just like that, you have the Fantastic Four now being able to establish themselves as a superhero team in this brand new reality. And so you do have the book kind of end with Nick Fury saying like, hey, the president's going to allow you guys to be out there as a superhero team. But as the book ends, it tells us who's coming next. And that would be the Black Panther. But with that being said, guys, please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.